untitled.com, and today we're going to show you how to install and properly cut the perfect dado on your table saw. This is a dado cut. You can see a dado is just simply a U-shaped cut out of a piece of material. The dado is used to join another piece of material to it. Simply slides inside the dado, giving us a very solid joint. Typically used a lot in cabinetry to join shelves or the top and bottom of the cabinet to the sides. The dado set we're going to be using today is a stack dado set. The stack dado is made up of basically two components. You have your two outer blades and then multiple inner chippers. The outer blades have more teeth than the inner chippers. The reason for this is, just like on any saw blade, the more teeth you have, the cleaner cut you're going to get. So your outer blades, which define the outside edges of your dado, will have more teeth, so you get a very clean edge on the outer edge of your dado. There is a left and a right hand side to the outer chippers, or the outer blades. The reason for that is when you stack the blade together, you don't want to have carbide hitting carbide. So on the outer blade, on the outside edge, the carbide protrudes out from the plate. On the inside edge, the carbide is milled smooth or flush with the plate. So when those get stacked together, the carbide isn't going to chip itself and damage the opposite cutter. One thing you'll find with a more expensive or premium dado set is the quality of cut it leaves. The bottom of the dado is perfectly flat. A less expensive dado set may leave little ridges or notches because each blade may not be exactly the same diameter. Therefore, the smaller blades will leave a ridge where the larger blades will leave a little valley. So a premium dado, again, will give you a better cut. Now we're going to go ahead and install the dado on the table saw. I'll start with my first outside cutter. Again, those are the blades with the most teeth. There is a left and a right hand side, so I want to make sure that the teeth are pointing towards me. And like we mentioned before, the blade on one side, the teeth are ground flush with the plate. On the other side, they protrude a little bit. So we'll put the flush side towards the inner part, or where we'll be stacking the rest of the chippers. So I'll install that on the saw first, my first outside cutter. Then we'll install the chippers. I want to keep these clean, make sure I don't have any dust on them, because anything that's stuck in between the blade will affect how wide it is. I'm going to install an 1/8" chipper next. When I install these, I want to line up the teeth on the chippers with the large gollets on the outside blades. So I'm making sure I don't have any carbide touching carbide. Now I'm going to install another 1/8" cutter. We're going to stack this to 3/4 inch thick for the dado we're going to cut. My next 1/8" cutter. Again, alternating the teeth, so I never have any carbide touching carbide. My last 1/8" chipper. And finally, the last outer cutter. Again, flush side here. The side with the carbide protruding is out. And again, lining up the gullet with the tooth on the chipper so I don't have any carbide touching. Now with that on, I can reinstall the flange from the table saw and the nut to secure it all down. Now we'll tighten it up with the wrench. This doesn't have to be super tight. A lot of people will over tighten the nut on the table saw. That actually damages the flange, can damage your blades, and it just doesn't need to be that tight. This tightens the opposite of the rotation of the blade, so as I cut, it'll actually tighten itself. Okay, now we need to put our insert plate back in to fill the area around the blade, but obviously the one that we were using with our normal saw blade has too small of a hole for the large dado set, so we need a dado insert. You have a couple of options here. Your saw manufacturer will make a plate with a wide opening, usually about 1 inch wide, to go around your blade so you'll have clearance for your wider dado set. Another option is a zero clearance insert like this one. When you purchase this plate, it won't have any hole in it at all, though. This will all be solid material. You would install it on your saw with your blade lowered all the way, a board clamped over the top of the insert, and then with the saw running you would slowly raise the blade up through it so it cuts its own hole in the insert. The benefit of this system is when it cuts its own hole, that means the clearance is perfect. You'll see when I install it on the saw here, there's a perfect gap around the blade. The advantage to this is any material that's not supported by this plate will tend to want to chip when I cut. With the zero clearance insert, the material is supported right up against the edge of the blade, so I'll get very little, if any, tear out when I cut the material. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and make our cut with the dado installed on our saw. I've got my hearing protection on. Remember your safety glasses. Go ahead and fire up the dust collector. Turn on the saw. And cut. And there it is. With a properly installed dado set, now we have a perfect, very clean 3/4 inch wide by 3/8 of an inch deep dado cut.